Hey guys, this is the third of the proposal project lectures. I'm going to be going over a bunch of series of documents this time, so I'm going to keep the screen free of my face so you can see what I'm doing. All of these documents here will be located in the document sections in our class. This one's the proposal assignment details. This is going to give you the expectations I have of you for this project. This is what you're going to be doing to argue or propose for the research project of some kind. Now, some of you are going to be proposing a primary research project, and some of you are going to be proposing a secondary research project. Keep in mind that you are proposing a semester-long project, so this has to be thorough and it has to be good. Obviously, it's a 400 level course and it has high expectations. So for those of you who are currently in senior design in any of the engineering technology, information systems, computer science, etc., then you are most likely doing primary research. As a reminder from our previous lectures, primary research means you are creating something. You're making a widget, a process, you're creating a server, you're creating something. Therefore, you're going to be able to include such things as observations, experimentations, testings, interviews, questionnaires, maybe recorded reviews, but something, right? So some examples that I offer you here would be designing and testing a product. Anyone in MAT, probably WT to some certain extent, even industrial. For example, you might be creating and testing a software app for the iPhone, or designing and testing an optical sensing device to measure foot traffic to the SkyBridge. There's a lot of different projects you could be working on. You might be comparison testing of like a typical laser printer versus an inkjet printer. Some of you might be doing qualitative or quantitative research with surveys or interviews. See, these types are both primary and qualitative. So you'll be doing some sort of data collection, such as interviewing experts. Then you'll encode the data and publish the results. This might be beneficial to you if you are not yet in senior design and are looking for a project, or perhaps if you are even in senior design, but you're in information systems and you're trying to figure out what that project might look like in that field. So you might interview people, hand out surveys. I put SurveyMonkey here. That's an example of one survey tool you might use. This is also for people who are English majors. This might be a relevant way of doing research on a technical topic you find interesting, all right? All right, so our other type of project people are the secondary research project people. That's essentially what you've been doing every time someone's assigned you a research project through most of your classes over the last 4 years. You would have gathered things like academic journals, trade journals, magazines, corporate government reports, white papers, and then you compiled it all into an exhaustive, extensive report that reports on the primary research of other people. Okay? So here's some examples. A review of the current status of research of a controversial medical product or medical procedure. Maybe you're looking at stem cells or life-extending biomedical research. You might look at newspapers, journal articles that are scholarly, as well as from leading biomedical trade journals, perhaps. Another one is green energy here. This might be a review of current products associated with green energy. So apparently, if you're an English major, or if you're an education major, or not in senior design, this may be another option of what you could choose to do on a project and write about during the entire semester. Okay, here are our components of this particular assignment. We're actually looking forward to some future assignments here as well, but all of these items you'll be working through in the course calendar. All of them document the research project that will culminate in that white paper at the end of the semester. Okay, that's the final thing that you submit to you. For those of you in senior design, it's a variation of what you've submitted for senior design. But remember, there's an entire arc of work which is expected this particular semester. You're proposing right now what you're going to be doing, the proposal, and then you're going to follow through on what you say you're going to do. I'll let you take a look at these individual items as we work through the semester. You'll do an elevator speech, progress report, oral presentation. I'm not going to read through all those because you can do that yourself. But my grading criteria for this proposal I'm looking for persuasion. I'm looking to actually believe that number one, there's a problem or issue, and number two, that you have a means of solving it. I'm looking to understand what your level of interest is in the topic and the complexity of the research that you're proposing. If you're proposing something that's kind of mamby-pamby, I'm going to say it's mamby-pamby. Remember, 400 level projects that last for an entire semester, that's what you're after. Genre knowledge. Genre is type. That's basically, does it look like a proposal? Does it follow my guidelines? Quality of peer reviews. That's a separate graded item. Do not skip those, even though it looks like they're 1 or 2 points. Those are weighted, so they will count a whole lot more. You cannot pass this course if you're skipping the peer reviews. Okay, just a warning. I'm looking for you to actually be the kind of peer reviewer that you want others, that you hope others will give to you. Your senior level, I expect this to be professional and well done and thorough. Revising, editing in the process, are you submitting drafts along the way? How good of a job are you doing rewriting certain sections? Okay, that's it for the assignment details. This document's available under Important Source Documents. Okay, so let's move over here to, this is a class that we're having right here. I want to show you where you can find formatting guidelines. You can see it's right here at the very top. I'll open it up for you real quick. I am not going to read through this entire thing. You can do that yourselves. But I want you to note that this is where you're going to find important information and guidelines on what your documentation in this class should look like. Things like types of fonts, sizings, headings, spacing, full blocking on the left margins, paragraphs, things that you can read yourself and should, so you don't lose points. Okay, so our next document is also located in the same place here, and that is our proposal guidelines. Now, I'm going to refer you back to my previous lecture, lecture 2. And if you haven't watched or listened to it, or watched or listened to it, then you need to. This one talks about the suggestions of proposal guidelines. Now, as I noted, all proposals are different, both in college, in this class, and in the real world, because all proposals have different goals. So each one of you is essentially doing an independent study or project, and all of these things are suggestions that you need to take and look at and go, how do these things work with what I'm trying to do? Am I in MIT? Am I, what version of the proposal am I working on? Senior design, or am I an English major? What am I doing? You have to take a look at these things and evaluate them to figure out if they work for you. Review these headings for sure. This is basically a condensed version of what you've observed in lecture 2, and it'll be good reminders for you. Okay, now I want to go through some student samples. All right, so we're in proposal information. I want to look at 2 student samples with you to give you some idea of what a proposal might eventually look like. This is number 1. This is Chuck Kraft. He was an ICET Phase 2, which means that he revised his proposal from a senior design to fit my standards. This means that he reduced it from about to 8 pages. It had originally about 18 pages to suit the 3 C's that we've talked about. Other engineering technology types, that may be you may need to actually not reduce, but you might need to expand your proposals. It depends on the class you're in and what your professor has required, and so on. I'm trying to prepare you for as broad of a perspective of written documentation in the technical world as I can show you. If your proposal is only like 2 pages, for example, it probably needs to be at least 3 or 4 to bolster it. So here, Chuck has a table of contents. Table of contents may or may not be necessary. If your proposal project is done in 4 pages, it really doesn't need a table of contents, let's be honest. But it's possible that you might need one. Chuck has an introduction and an executive summary here. I want you to take a look at it and read it when you have the time to do so. These 2 things really make up what would be called his introduction section. We will talk more about executive summaries once we get towards the white paper near the end of the semester, because white papers often have those in there. Now his formatting, it's very clear, it's crisp, it's professional. He does headings really well. He's got some graphics in here that represent things in the right way. That's easy to look at. So we get kind of a block diagram for his hardware. He has some bullet lists. Notice that the bullet lists are introduced, and that's important to introduce the bullet list correctly and thoroughly. He has a project plan. Oh, wait, I want to point one thing out to you. One thing is that Chuck did that's a small slip up, and it's very small. Some people wouldn't even notice. But notice he has round bullet points down here and square bullet points up here. Whatever you're going to go with, you want to make sure that those things are the same all the way throughout. I know it's a minute detail, but if you want to know what the tiny things are that might be impressing an audience, often it is those really tiny things that can make a huge difference in whether you get the approval or not. Specifically, when we get to the second thing this semester, which is called the project of communicating ourself, and you're working on your resume, that's really important. Okay, so Chuck's got some really great information here. We've got components, we've got task lists. Notice he has a time and task list, which is broken down from the Gantt chart, rather than just trying to plunk in only the Gantt chart, which is really impossible to see sometimes. He also has his Gantt chart here, but you can see that it's really difficult to read something that large. As I mentioned in a past proposal, or a past lecture, and gave you some examples of what to do about that. He has about 40 tasks that he's working here. I've actually seen some people have listed hundreds of tasks that go on for pages, and they're so small that I can't read them. That's not helpful. Don't do that. All right, so we've got his qualifications and his conclusion to end. So you get a proposal, you get an idea of what a proposal would look like from someone who is currently in senior design. Another one I'm going to have you look at. Oops. I'm going to do that really fast and put it back together. I'm going to have you look at the student proposal number 3 when we get back here. Well, at least you could see how this all works. Important course documents, writing samples in Clearinghouse, and we're in the proposal information. That's where you'll find all these things. I'll add samples and things throughout the semester as we move along. I'm opening student sample 3 right now, and that is Benjamin, who did a pasture improvement program. This is an example of someone who's in a technical field, MET, but he was not currently in senior design, so he was kind of in a phase 1. So this is a slightly different type of project angle. Benjamin had a family farm, and he decided he was going to improve that pasture because he wanted to expand what kind of animals he wanted to produce on that farm. He has just the basics here. This is one I chose because it's very short and simple and sweet. He has an introduction, he has objectives, and you'll note here it's only like a 3-page proposal, right? It's a little on the low end, but it's solid, and it meets the examples and needs of what he needs to do. It has a real audience, a real need, and a specific a plan for what he wants to do to get this job done. We've got some bullet lists. He's got an introduction to the bullet lists. It's thorough. He uses headings. He uses verbs: meet, research, compile, post, submit. So it's verbs that meet his objectives. It helps us to see that quickly. It's got all the earmarks of a really solid proposal, even though it's short. Benjamin was going to meet with the extension agent and then include interviews on zoning laws, which he added in later on as he went through. I want to show you his timeline here. He has illustrated a real need, a real audience. It's obvious that he's dedicated and committed to his idea. He plans to write his white paper, the final document for this class, so that other small farmers in Indiana can understand the requirements and create their own plans. So it benefits his own family farm. It also benefits other family farms as far as his audience. One thing that would be better here, where's this timeline? Okay, this timeline is too short. It needs more detail than this. It was good enough that I approved and let him move forward, but for those of you still doing it, note here, complete preliminary research, for instance. He concentrates his timeline on meeting goals for the class, and I'm looking for something a little more thorough. As far as meeting the needs for the project, not just the class. Okay, so completing preliminary research, that definitely needed more steps. That's a whole lot of information.